Well, I was here the year of 51 through 55. I was in the high school class of 1955. So therefore, and what I remember, it was all that we had. When I said we as African Americans, better known back then as colored folks, this was the only place for black children, African American kids, colored folks back that day, to go to high school 9th through 12th grade. This was it. That's how everybody got to know everybody, because they were bused from all four corners of the county to this one location, and that was Prentiss Institute. That's all we had for 9th through 12th grade.
It all started simply as an idea. Open space, changing times, great needs.
I came to Prentiss Institute in September of 1941. I remained here until May of 1947. Prentiss Institute was a haven for me. Can you imagine that a little girl, only 13 years old, had to leave home and meet strangers, because in my hometown of Mendenhall, Mississippi, they did not have a school for people that looked like me.
A young, happily married couple put their heads together and thought far beyond themselves as they looked deeply into the future. Jonas Edward and Bertha LaBranch Johnson had a vision. They saw themselves educating black children and preparing them for life. That was 1907, here in rural Prentiss, Mississippi. They didn't have much beyond a dream and a desire. But what Jonas and Bertha Johnson did have were gumption, hope, and just enough money to purchase 40 acres and an old house. Inspired by Booker T. Washington, the Johnsons named their school Prentiss Normal and Industrial Institute, and it became one among 100 such schools across the South that were modeled after Washington's Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute in Alabama, now known as Tuskegee University. When the Johnsons opened the doors to their school, 40 students showed up, ready to learn.
I was a cheerleader for the football team, and in the classroom, I remember our teachers, Professor Armstrong, Miss Godboat was the Hummock teacher, and Mr. Frisbee. I will never forget him. He was a very, very good teacher. He taught algebra. I had to take algebra over twice because of his language. I had a problem with it, but in the end, I did real well. It was real good.
One of the things that I liked about Prentiss, it gave you a liberation from stuff you couldn't do, that you thought you couldn't accomplish. That's what it did for me. I got here and I mingled with kids from other places, made good friends, and been part of the football team here. You had a sense of accomplishments that you could do some things that you thought you couldn't do before you left home.
The journey forward was long, often rough, and always buoyed by commitment and faith as a gateway to education and better futures for its students. As more students arrived at Prentiss, more land was needed, more buildings were constructed, and more teachers were hired. The curricula advanced as well, from agricultural and vocational education to a fully accredited community college. Eventually, the campus covered 500 acres, with more than 24 buildings, 700 students, and 44 faculty members.
We were poor people, you know. I came from a farming community. And I was a pretty brilliant student. I think I was at the top of my class. But still, the opportunities were not great for me to go to Jackson State at the time, Alcorn, anyway, the four-year colleges. So I had not heard about Prentiss Institute. So I heard it from my principal, my former principal. So he thought that would be a good fit for me, and it was. But if I had not heard of it, I'm not sure where I would be.
I can look back and say how blessed we were to have Prentiss Institute and what it offered to us.
When I came to school here, I felt very, very, very good and very proud because the educators of this institution was very knowledgeable of being professional. So I felt good and felt very sad if I missed a day in school.
The I story for me is I became who I am because of Prentiss Institute. I know that, I believe that in my heart. And if it had not been for Prentiss Institute, I would be working at Sanderson Farms because that was my dream, is to get out of my mama's house, my two friends and I, get an apartment and work at Sanderson Farms. But Prentiss Institute saw something that I didn't see. And the people, when I say Prentiss Institute, I'm talking about the people here.
With the advancement of desegregation in the second half of the 20th century, Prentiss Institute had to compete with formerly segregated colleges and universities to retain its students. The rough early years gave way to harsher times in a more open society. Eventually, the toll was too much as the enrollment here dropped and resources became scarce. The need, however, never waned, and efforts to keep the school open eventually gave way to the realization it was no longer sustainable. In 1989, Prentiss Institute shut down.
Well, as I said, to find out about the campus shutting down was devastating to me because it tore down a lot of walls that had been built up. You know, we were friends with not only the faculty here, but also the neighboring community, the Johnsons and everybody else. We knew them well. Like I said, it was devastating, and it was a shock to see, you know, this historic black university, all of a sudden the door was closed up on it.
We were the largest class in the history of the school when we came here in 1966. And we had over 300 students. And at one time I look around, it brings tears to your eye to see these buildings gone. My dormitory is down. This one probably is on its way down, but I think, you know, no matter how bleak it may seem right now, I believe it's gonna be like that verse in the Bible, joy will come in the morning, we're gonna get something started here.
Prentiss Institute has so much potential. It used to be a pillar of the community, and I think it can be a pillar of the community today. So if people would get involved in some type of form or fashion, whether it's financial or just volunteering.
The vision of Jonas and Bertha Johnson still resides among members of the Prentiss Institute Trustee Board. Its members meet every month and provide facilities for local events. Today, their eyes are trained on the future and the renewed relevance of preparing today's children and young adults to meet the immediate and emerging needs of an unfolding future. Listed on the National Register of Historic Places and a Mississippi landmark, Prentiss Institute in Jefferson Davis County continues to honor the past and project the future as it embraces a new purpose that serves the community into the 21st century. Today, Prentiss Institute welcomes visitors from across the country for museum and campus tours. It promotes venue rentals for cultural and community events, and it seeks to incorporate training programs that support the working population. The purpose and value of the campus are just as great today as they were more than 100 years ago when the Johnsons turned their dream into Prentiss Institute.
People see the work being done. That inspires them to say, hey, you know, I think I can get involved in some type of way. So it has to start somewhere. So I think the board, as well as the Prentiss Partnership, we've started that work, and now we're letting people know what work has been done. So I think that will inspire people, just to know that people care.
Prentiss Institute is still alive. We are here, we're still working diligently, but it's definitely going to take some finances. It's going to take some finances, it's going to take some concerned people who realize that we are the future. So I will say to the people out there, help, give, remember where you came from. And remember that it was somebody who made you become who you are. And we can only be what we can be for each other. And what we can be for each other is a helping hand.
The viability of Prentiss Institute is grounded in the commitment of its board, alumni, and people who realize the significance of planning for the future today. Their support is needed now more than ever to bring the dreams and vision of Jonas and Bertha Johnson back into focus. Together, we can build a future that far exceeds the success achieved through tenacity and forward thinking. Prentiss Institute has survived because the thousands of students who came through its doors and were taught in these classrooms are productive, generous, and live with a purpose to improve the lives of others, including children who have yet to be born. That is why Prentiss Institute was important then, in the past, and is even more relevant today and tomorrow. We invite you to join us and become a part of the Prentiss Institute family. We welcome your donations to honor the past and invest in the future. And thank you for your support.